Hi everyone, it's Claire here, and I asked in my Facebook group if anyone would be interested in me adding some slightly different types of videos to the channel, specifically how to make your own homemade cosmetics and body products, things like that are all natural. And quite a few people said they would love me to do some tutorials on that. So today, for our first tutorial, we are going to be making all natural body lotion bars. So what will you need to do this? First of all, you'll see a lot of people say you need a double boiler. Now that doesn't mean you have to go out and buy an actual double boiler, but all you need is a saucepan and a bowl that ideally I get the Pyrex with these slight little handles over at the sides because it sits neatly on top of the saucepan, and also something for you to handle with oven gloves to easily remove the bowl safely when you want to. I have seen some tutorials online of people with a bowl that is literally swimming in the middle and tipping up and down, and that's really dangerous. So I recommend getting a Pyrex bowl, the type that's sort of a small casserole dish size, and a saucepan that you want to dedicate these items to your making of cosmetics. This saucepan is only used for candle making and cosmetic making. This bowl is only used for items for skincare. I do not use the same bowl for skincare as I do with wax. That's a completely different thing, and I'll do a video on that later on. You're also going to need a mould. Now I recommend a silicone mould because it makes them really, really easy to turn out. This one was £2 in Asda's. You can buy them online and get pretty hearts and flowers and really pretty much anything in your imagination you can get hold of in a silicone mould. So I really recommend them because you don't have to do anything to the mould, so that they'll come out nice and easily. So again, that's quite cheap. You're also going to need some spatulas. Now I have sort of like a ladle here and a stirrer. Again, this is silicone and that's a heat-proof plastic. Now you want them to be able to be cleaned at a high temperature. And again, you want them dedicated just to making your skincare items. Now, for this particular recipe, what you're going to need is 90 grams of shea butter. Now, you can get organic shea butter, you can get non-organic shea butter, you can get refined organic and non-organic shea butter. So what do you need? Well, from experimenting with different shea or shea butter, whatever you want to say. I always say shea, but I think it is actually shea. But anyway, with your butters, the refined that you generally get on the market tends to be done at an extremely high temperature, and it takes out a lot of the skin-friendly, skin nutrient ingredients that we want in there to moisturize. However, there has recently been several companies that have brought out a refined organic shea butter that is done very, very over gentle heat, and it's not fully refined, if you like, and that's the one I use, as shea butter has a very, very strong smell and I'm very sensitive to smells. But pretty much any shea butter, whatever you want to say, you need 90 grams of that for this recipe. You will also need another butter. Now, I am using mango butter, as you can see here. I got this from Fresholi. I take the labels off the bags that she gives me and pop them on my containers, which is here in the UK. Very good value for money. Her shipping is immense. Customer service is immense. So I highly recommend that. But you can get it anywhere, and I use the mango butter because I find cocoa butter extremely strong smelling. I can't actually eat chocolate as it gives me severe migraines, so I'm not keen on the smell anyway. And mango butter for me is easier to work with and absorbs a bit better, in my opinion, than cocoa butter, as well as having slightly higher levels of certain vitamins, etc., that you want in there for your skin treatment. So that's just my personal choice, but you can use cocoa butter if you want. You can completely take out the butter and replace it with coconut oil if that's something you have to hand and you don't want to invest in two butters. One thing that you cannot mess around with is your beeswax pellets. Now, these are cosmetic grade beeswax pellets. If you are vegan, obviously you still need a wax to help these set and to make sure they don't revert back to liquid when they're sitting on your side or wherever it is you want to keep them afterwards, by your kitchen sink, for example. So you still need a wax. But there are some vegan friendly waxes out there that you can look into. I'm trying to remember what one the lady from Fresh Oli was saying she normally stocks. It will come to me. Olive wax. That's the one that she normally stocks. But I think you can get jojoba wax, although that may be a bit dearer. And so there are vegan waxes out there, but you will need a wax. And so far it's 90 grams, 90 grams, and 90 grams. Okay? But the wax is not something you want to mess around with. Now, this is an added optional that I put in mine. You don't need to invest in if you don't want to, and you can make your own. I do have a batch brewing, but it's not going to be ready actually for a couple of weeks. So I actually purchased some as I needed to make some new bars, and that is Calendula Oil. Well, oil infused with calendula, which is really, really good if you have sensitive skin, if you have reactive skin, if you want really good skin softening and suffer with dry skin. It's anti-aging, it's great for eczema and psoriasis, so there's a lot of really good properties to this. And you're only literally using anywhere between half a teaspoon and a teaspoon per batch. So this 50 ml here, which I think was about £2, something like that, you know, is a good investment. If you have calendula petals at home on the calendula flower heads, then you can actually dry those. Take a jam jar and fill it to about halfway with them. Then fill the jam jar to the top with oil, and you want to leave that in a sunny position for several weeks, and you will have made your own calendula oil. So there's a little tip there if you want to make your own. And for scent, I am adding rosewood essential oil and lavender essential oil. Now, I don't use fragrance oils because although you can get cosmetic grade fragrance oils to pop in here, they are made of chemicals, anywhere between 15 and 30 different chemical profiles to trick your brain into thinking it's smelling rose or frankincense or something like that. They don't contain any natural ingredients. So if you can afford to invest in some essential oils, for example, lavender is a really cheap one, and you can get it on eBay, you can get it in Boots, you can get it even in Superdrug, and a small 10 ml bottle you can get for a couple of pounds. You don't have to invest in organic or anything like that. And maybe I'll do another video talking about essential oils. But anyway, that's why I use essential oils. If you already have fragrance oils that are cosmetic safe, that's really important. You cannot use the same ones for your candles as you do your cosmetics. I don't use either, but you must check that they are cosmetic safe. So that's your ingredients here. One thing I will say that I also add in is a pair of rubber gloves. Now, the reason I do this is because I need to weigh out, oh, you're going to need scales, obviously. I need to weigh out my butters. So I'm going to need to use, you can use a spoon if you want, but they're a bit awkward to handle and you may need to break bits off. So I like to use my hands. Now, you can wash your hands and use your hands to do that. but your hands are a warm temperature, which will encourage the butters to melt slightly, and any bacteria that's on your hands will be left in your butters in your container. And natural beauty products that you make at home do not have the long shelf life of items you may buy at the store. So the last thing you want to do is actually put germs into your ingredients. So I use some non-latex gloves, and that is what I use for weighing these out. So that is enough talking, I think. Let's get actually going. So I've got a little bit of water in the saucepan, and I've put my Pyrex bowl inside. The water is not touching the base of the saucepan, it is just below that, and I've brought it up to a simmer. So that's what you want there. Now let's put on my gloves, and I'm going to, look at that, these just come right out the box, and this glove has no fingers. What on earth? But anyway, let's get another one. What do you think, Ellen? Been ripped off with our gloves. Let's get our scales, which are here. Give them a quick wipe over as I was measuring out some herbs. These are our scales. And what I do is use the lid from my container as my measurer. So I pop that on. You want to zero your scales, obviously. And then, come on, zero. Thank you. Take your time. And we want 90 grams. So if I move this over a bit, hopefully it won't disturb them. Just so you can see sort of what 90, that's 53 for example. 85. This is what I mean about breaking it off. I'm actually breaking off small bits now. 88. Let's break off another small bit. 90 exactly. There we go. And that's that. So you want to pop that into your bain-marie or double boiler, whatever you want to call it. All in. And then we can pop the lid back on that one, like so, and pop that out the way. So next we want to do the same, 90 grams of our mango butter. Let's bring this over here. And what you will find is the more you experiment with different butters, because there's so many to experiment with, is some are actually lighter than others. So you'll look like and think, why have I got loads of this one and not so much of the other one? And generally it's because the butter itself is actually lighter. So 90 grams. And by doing it this way, you're not getting any wastage, because obviously you've paid out for these butters. And you don't want to be wasting them willy-nilly, and by using your lid you can get every last bit off, and any that may have been left on the lid will just go back in your tub. Okay, fabulous. It's already started melting up in there. I'll lift the camera in a minute once we've done our beeswax. Now I'm going to take my gloves off for this because I don't need gloves to do that. You can just use a scoop. Where's the spoon? Okay. And then we want 90 grams of beeswax, or your alternate wax if you are vegan. Because you shouldn't think that you can't make these kind of things, because so many of the recipes do automatically say beeswax. But it is as simple as just replacing it with a vegan alternative to your beeswax. Okay, I'm going to put that in so that I'm not going to spill this. That was 72. In you go, please. Thank you. Now we need another 18 grams. There we are. And that's 90 grams of beeswax. Okay. Right. I will just lift you up so you can have a look and see that it's already started melting down in there. Like so, and I'll pop you over here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause this here because obviously it takes a while for this to melt down and you don't want to watch the entirety of that, and we will be back when it has melted further. Okay, I just thought I'd show you how we're getting on, and I'm at the point where I'm actually doing some stirring now, like so. And as a note, while I was actually doing that, I did remember that the reason I get the pellets of the cosmetic beeswax, because you can get cosmetic beeswax in a block. The reason I get the pellets is because beeswax will be the last thing to melt in your mix. And if you put in large chunks of beeswax in the same way as you do your butters, your mix will literally take 45 minutes plus for it to actually melt down, because beeswax is so slow melting. So by getting the small pellets, then it kind of evens out the melt time a lot better, and just makes the process a little bit less laborious, because you don't want to be standing over your stove for literally forever. There's not too much of a price difference, to be honest with you, and it's just a lot quicker way of doing it. Of course, you could get the beeswax blocks and grate them yourself. That is absolutely an option. If you can only get your hands on the beeswax blocks, then have a grater as part of your skincare making set of items, and you can grate it down that way. And that will be perfectly fine grated. It melts quite quickly if you've grated it. I have tried it, but again, make sure it's the cosmetic grade beeswax, because you don't want to get any of the nasties that can be in some of the beeswaxes that are just for candle making or furniture polish, for example. So I'm going to pause again and I'll be back. Okay, we're back. So it's literally been about 4 minutes and everything is almost completely melted and in liquid form. You want to make sure that every little bit's melted though, because you don't want any inconsistencies or lumpy bumpy bits. And I have to say, do really look around for your butters, because they are not all the same quality. I got some off of Amazon that I actually couldn't use. It was so grainy and it was just real nasty. So they are not all made equal. If you're in the UK, I really do recommend fresholi.co.uk, because honestly the service and the butters are next to none. So that is completely done now, so we can turn our heat off completely. And what you want to do now is add your calendula oil. So I'm going to add about 20 drops. Like so, which is about 2/3 of a teaspoon. Obviously you can use a teaspoon if you would like. Stir that in. Lovely. Now you want your mould. So let me just shimmy this over so that we can see a bit better down here. Now, with your mould, you have a few options of things you can do. Now, you can obviously add some little lavender in the bottom. You can add some calendula petals in the bottom. You can add some rose petals. Pretty much any very small herbs you can add into the bottom to make it really pretty when they turn out. I do sometimes do this depending on my plan for the use of them. But the one thing I will say is that it can be a little annoying when you're rubbing your lotion bar on you and you start getting little calendula petals, for example. So if you have very sensitive skin and you are planning to use it on dry skin, stuff like that, I probably wouldn't recommend popping anything inside. Another thing I do occasionally do with them, if I'm making, for example, a bar that is for colds and flus, so it'll be eucalyptus and you know, it's very therapeutic, then I will sometimes add in a polished, you don't add a point, a polished gemstone in there, which will just infuse it with gemstone energies, and at the end you can just rinse under hot water and your gemstone will be good to go and unharmed. You want to really do that with quartz-based crystals, as they are safe to go into cosmetic products. In case I didn't mention that. Yes, there we go. So now that our mix has slightly cooled a little bit, well, I've been just nattering on about who knows what, we can add our essential oils. So I'm going to just drip out my spatula, like so. You don't want to waste any, because like I say, you have paid for your lovely butters, etc. And then you want to add your essential oils. Now for this blend, you want to add 20 drops of essential oil. So I'm going to add 10 lavender and 10 rosewood. Now lavender essential oil, when I can get it open, lavender essential oil is probably the most well known. Let me count, because I can't count and talk, it turns out. I think that was about 10, it'll be fine. Lavender is antiseptic. It is stress relieving, helps you sleep, reduces anxiety. It's just a really great essential oil. It's suitable for those with sensitive skin, which is a big plus, obviously. And rosewood, let's pop that in. Can't remember how quick the dropper is on this one. I know the lavender comes out super fast. I think this is slower. Come on. In your own time. You don't have to be super counting about your essential oil, but you do need to make sure they are diluted, because obviously essential oil should not be used directly on the skin. Well, very few of them anyway. So now we go back in with our spatula and give that a stir. So rosewood. Rosewood again is another calming, really therapeutic oil. It brings support. It's excellent for the skin, particularly those with sensitive skin. It's great for anti-aging properties, depression. So this is a great bar to use for any of those things. Great for before sleep. So now that's stirred in. So we need to take our ladle. Now what you can do, I'm not doing it today because I don't think it'll be safe to do while I am filming, but I have an old Pyrex jug that no longer has its measurements on. So what I will normally do is take that mix and put it into the Pyrex, and then I can just pour it. Now if you do that, you'll find by the time you stop pouring, get your words out, Claire, that some of it will have solidified on the jug. Now what you can do is just stand that in your glass bain-marie and let it warm up again, and then pour it in, or you could put it in the microwave for just a few seconds to reheat it and then use it, because again we want to use all of our mix. But for purposes of today, I'm going to use my ladle. So you want to ladle it in, and you'll start to see that it does start solidifying on the ladle itself. And again, we just reheat the ladle if you like. And obviously you will have added your petals, if you are adding petals, to the bottom of this mould already before you start pouring in your mix is when you want to do that. I may have to tip my bowl in a minute so that I can get this to ladle in. How hot is my bowl? You want to be very careful with your bowl because it gets super, super hot. So I'm going to have to get my oven gloves in a second. Once I finish that one, I can have a little bit more. Okay, shimmy you over a little bit. Just get my oven gloves. Okay, move this back, and then we just want to tip our bowl. We'll probably pour it from here realistically. I could actually pour it. Oh, this is kept candid. There. Okay, back in we go. Now, as you can see, in this mould, this particular mix has made 3 full ones and a half. Now, that's deliberate on my part, but you may want to add, you probably could add, what, another 10 grams of each will probably mean this is a full one. But I carry one in my handbag, and obviously a large bar like this is going to be very, very awkward to carry around, especially as I carry a smaller bag anyway because of my shoulder problems. So I make these little ones, and then this one I will then cut in half so it's 2 sort of half moon shapes, and carry one in my handbag, and then I've got another one put aside for when that one runs out. So you can just carry them on the go that way, and that's just me. But you can add probably about, I would say it's probably another 10 grams of each of your butters and your wax, and that will probably fill the third one if you want to get a full one out of it. So what I'm going to do now is leave these to set, and they really don't take that long. This is not something you're going to have to leave to set for the next sort of 6 hours. You'll start to see, I mean, already the stuff that I've dripped on the top has solidified here. And I usually just, in all fairness, I'm usually a bit crafty. I'll remove that, and then you can use that to moisturise your hands as you're doing it. So, little treat for the maker there, isn't it? And I will come back and show you them once they are turned out. So I will speak to you soon. Okay, we're back. So the larger ones aren't quite ready yet, and they're still a bit warm. But I have a few more projects that I need to do today. So I turned out the smaller one for you, which is actually still warm. And as you can see, that is your gorgeous lotion bar. So to use it, all you would do is rub it between your hands, like so. Being a bit more gentle with this one as it is still quite warm. And then you'll find that some of it will come off, and you just rub that all over your hands just as if it was a hand cream, and you're good to go. And on your body you can just hold it and just rub it up and down on your body like so, particularly after a bath or a shower. Give it a rub in, and as you can see, there's absolutely like no greasy residue at all. It's just lovely and moisturised. And that is how to make lotion bars. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and it's a fun project to do at home, and you also have the benefit of knowing exactly what has gone into your skincare. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know below if you'd like to see a few more on different homemade lotions, potions and cosmetics. That's it from me. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.